Welcome to Bed Crime Stories podcast. I'm your host, T. If you like all things true crime, if you like it delivered in a peaceful, tranquil manner, if you like it clear and concise without drama, then I highly recommend you subscribe. And if you like what you hear, please smash the like button. It's a free way you can help. And now, without further ado, let's dig in. Well, hello there. How are you, my beautiful true crime aficionados? As you likely know by now, the reward for information leading to Sebastian Rogers is now up to $100,000. The FBI is now involved, as is Dog the Bounty Hunter. $100,000 is a lot of money, but can it entice someone who knows what happened to Sebastian to talk? My fear is that whatever happened to Sebastian was committed by a small, tight-knit group, possibly just 1 to 2 people, and that all involved have a very compelling reason to keep their mouths shut. Prison. I don't know about you, but if keeping a secret meant not going to prison, I think I could keep my mouth shut. And girl, you know how much I love to talk. The people involved don't want to go to prison. That's definitely not part of the plan. I have to believe that 1 or more people are behind Sebastian's disappearance because it had to be a coordinated plan. I think Sebastian would have been found by now if he ran away and got stuck, say, in a chimney. Not to be gross, but there'd be an odor. And there ain't enough potpourri in this whole world to drown that out. More and more, I'm convinced that those mysterious lights captured on a hardwired security camera in the Proudfoots neighborhood at around 3 a.m. on the morning Sebastian vanished are related to his disappearance. It's just too much of a coincidence that at 3 a.m. on the morning of February 26th, the day Sebastian vanished, those lights turn up, hover, and move around the Proudfoot home. Give me a break. Despite reporter Nick Barris, the Proudfoots, law enforcement, and Seth Rogers saying the lights are from garbage trucks, I don't believe it. A neighbor has said on camera that the garbage trucks didn't arrive that Monday until around 5 a.m. That's an eyewitness saying that the 3 a.m. lights could not have been from garbage trucks. Also, the 3 a.m. lights appear between houses. Last time I checked, garbage trucks don't cut through yards, they don't drive over grass, you know what I mean? Chris of the Mob Crew has done some amazing work overlaying security camera footage from one hardwired camera in the neighborhood that captured a mysterious car showing up near Sebastian's home at the same 3 a.m. hour as those moving lights. Chris laid that footage over the footage of the 2 lights, and he shows how the lights appear to be people walking between houses. Could this have been the moment somebody took Sebastian from the Proudfoot home to the waiting car? Then one of the lights appears to head back to the Proudfoot home. Could that be Katie Proudfoot? She was, after all, the only person left inside the house later that Monday morning. To me, this cannot be a coincidence. Chris also discussed that 2 of the neighbors' wireless ring cameras stopped working prior to Sebastian's disappearance. It's possible that someone used what's called a jammer to stop those wireless cameras from receiving Wi-Fi signals. Katie Proudfoot worked for Brinks Security, and she may still work for them, as an installation tech. Thus, she would likely know about these illegal jammers and how they can be used to prevent ring cameras from working. Is all of this stuff a coincidence? In my opinion, I don't think so. I'm sorry, but this case is looking like an inside job to me. I'm speculating. I'm not accusing anyone. No one has been charged with a crime so far. and the police keep saying there's no evidence of foul play. To me, a 15-year-old autistic child with chromosomal deletion syndrome going poof into the night seems like foul play. But we know Chris Proudfoot did not want Sebastian living at his and Katie's house. Chris allegedly was concerned that Sebastian might essay his young daughter Faith, which is such an unfair thing to lay on Sebastian, who was a victim of SA himself under Chris and Katie's care. We also know from Seth Rogers that Sebastian, with his autism and chromosomal deletion syndrome, was likely going to need lifelong care from his parents. Even if Sebastian went to live with Seth, he would still see his mother Katie perhaps every other weekend and on some holidays. Now, if a spouse threatens to leave the other spouse if they don't do something about their child, who requires a lot of special care, patience, understanding, and therapy, the parent, you'd think, would take the child's side over the spouse's side. But what if the parent comes from a troubled home, was perhaps mistreated as a child, and basically grew up in a less than ideal environment? That parent might be inclined to put the spouse before the child. People do some crazy shit for love, or what they think is love, or possibly for financial security. Look at Susan Smith and what she did to her little boys. She's the one who had them in the car and took them for a ride by the water, if you know what I mean. I don't think Sebastian was an easy child to deal with at age 15, with his hormones kicking in, and after suffering through the SA when he was younger. I also believe he clashed with his strict stepfather, Chris Proudfoot, a man who has admitted to using a belt on Sebastian, and whose previous wife claims he was incredibly cruel to her and her children. To understand what happened to Sebastian, we have to consider what he was going through at the time of his disappearance, and we have to look at the environment he was living in. Chris Proudfoot admits he was actively trying to arrange for Sebastian to live full-time with his biological father, Seth Rogers. Chris has also said that Sebastian was suffering from incontinence at home and at school. At age 15, to be suffering from that without another medical reason comes down to stress and fear and trauma. Sebastian also didn't like going outside barefoot, and I doubt he would have crawled out of his warm bed in the darkness to head outside alone, to run away. I've never bought that theory. To me, all these 3 a.m. lights and the 3 a.m. arrival of a mysterious car in the vicinity of the Proudfoot home have to be connected to Sebastian's disappearance. And I think that that car drove away with Sebastian and possibly took him down to the retention pond before disappearing with him into the night. That could explain the track of the scent dogs down to the pond. Where Sebastian ended up after that cannot be good, because he would have called his father Seth by now if he could. I'm hoping that the FBI can use its expertise to analyze the mysterious lights further, as well as the arrival of the unknown vehicle, which then drove away. There aren't many clues in Sebastian's disappearance. Therefore, these lights and this car cannot be dismissed. Everything I've shared in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. I'm not claiming that anybody is guilty of any crime, trying to cover my arse, and I'll see you next time on Bed Crime Stories.
Play the video of the potential abduction of Rogers, but what I'm going to share in today's video will again shock you to your core, as the people who were involved in this potential abduction likely did a practice run and more nefarious activities nights before Rogers disappeared. Now, I understand some don't believe this is the proper overlay, but I can assure you that after speaking with the locals, they have confirmed this is the correct area. The top right area of the camera is pointed. Notice the floodlights on the left, and the single floodlight on the right line up. Now, if you saw my last video, I explained on how I was told the suspicious vehicle had traveled. But after speaking with the locals again, they actually spoke to others in that neighborhood recently, and now we have a better idea on what the car did that night. So, the vehicle in question actually drove all the way down Kellen and then turned around. This was apparently reported by other witnesses. Then the vehicle came back down Kellen and stops just between these two homes here. Now, before I go further, it was told to me by the locals that a home towards the top of Kellen Avenue actually had some kind of ring camera system, but it was not working that night due to the fact they claim it was apparently fried and had to get a new one. I'll explain why. This is a huge deal, and how it likely pertained to the events that happened the night Rogers disappeared. So the car stops between these two homes, and that's when at least two subjects get out and walk towards the Rogers home, walking through the backyards. Now, it appears as if one subject stays close behind the home to the right, as the other one goes near the Rogers residence. Then shortly later, this is when the leaked footage shows Subject 2 crossing between the 2 yards and over this ditch. This ditch is actually quite deep, as we can see here in this footage captured by Stephen McCrabtree. As Subject 2 disappears, we can see, at the same time, Subject 1 is waiting nearby just behind the home to the right, then shortly disappears, as Subject 2 now reappears, as if making sure they cross the ditch, and Subject 2 then disappears behind the home to the right. Meanwhile, the vehicle in question is now approaching Stafford Street. This behavior is odd, but can be explained as to why they would do this. So here is the leaked footage of the car in question, turning on their headlights. You actually see a light behind the car for a brief second. This is possibly one of the subjects. Now, why would the car pull up near this home with security camera? Well, we're going to explain a potential reason as to why. And again, what I'm about to share comes from this homeowner and other locals. One of the things they shared about the footage is that the clip that shows a subject heading back towards the Rogers home did apparently come after the other videos, and it's believed this happened after the suspicious car had left the neighborhood. They even went on to say that it appeared that the subject jumped over the ditch when headed back towards the home. So we know that the homeowners with the security camera said that their timestamp was not working the night Rogers disappeared. But what's even more bizarre is that it began working again the day after.